you guys are looking for a series where you turn your 1K coins into 1 million, then you probably have come to the right place. Hence the title of the video. If you've been with us since the start, and by that I mean the first episode, which was 2 episodes ago, then this probably feels like home. Continuing off where we left off last week, we are sitting at about a little over 30k coins, and I'm going to be continuing my method that I showed off last week to amass some more coins. I see this Team of the Week Tatar. Looks like a pretty good price, but I'm still skimming over a few more cards before I go back to them. So to recap what I'm doing here, what I kind of did last week, is I'm going through special edition cards, Team of the Week, Player of the Game, Milestone, other special edition cards. Team of the Year, if you can find anything for really cheap and then like flip it because someone mistakenly forgot to add a 0. It happens pretty often. There are a lot of people out there who just like to prey on people's mistakes, or they pray to God to prey on their mistakes. I found this Tatar for 17k, and I end up trying to sell it for 25k. It doesn't quite work out in the future, as you guys will see, but I'm still looking to see if I can spend the rest of my money. So again, with this method, you're looking for cards that stand out, looking for cards that have really good deals on them compared to the rest of their cards. So with this Kessler, this card's going for 20k, and the rest of his cards are going for more than 25k, so I throw them up for about that price. This may not work if someone artificially inflated the price by buying out all the cards, so it's just their card left, and then there's a new card posted on the auction house, and you're like, oh, that seems like a good deal, when that's actually the average price. So you do have to be vigilant for that, but it doesn't happen too often. That's also something that you can do, which I'm going to show you guys in the future. So what you guys should be doing at this point with this method is trying to spend almost all of your money, maybe with like 10k left over, so that you always have a card that you're selling. And then when you run out of coins, you pretty much just stop for the day and then just come back to your auctions whenever something has sold or something has expired. Here we find another Verbata, pretty cheap, 11k, when we know that he sells for 20k based on last week's video, and even when I sold him, I guess, earlier in this video as well. By running into the same cards multiple times, you guys can kind of start to memorize the prices of them, so that when you see them again, you'll know that you can instantly buy them. Here I found a cheap Weedle on the auction house. I hope he turns into a Beedrill. Pokemon Evolve, they give you a better return on your investment. And here, going through the Team of the Weeks again, I find this Koivu, which epitomizes everything I was just talking about, the Beedrills. I mean, the memorizing of the prices, of course. So we're moving along here until we get about maybe 70, 80k, and then I'm going to switch up the type of method that I'm going to show you guys to make some coins. This is just more of the same. So while the video goes through a few different cards that I ended up flipping, I also want to mention to you guys a bunch of different random tips that might make your life easier. When you're selling cards and you put them up for 1 hour, you get the most exposure out of them. That's where the most people will see your card, better chance of someone buying it, even if your card might be a little bit overpriced. So that'll be your best chance of selling a card. Though if you got to the point where you're making a lot of different coins, or if you've already made $1 million like I do, I don't really feel like selling these cards for like an hour. I put them at 6 hours or 12 hours and just come back later to check on them. 12 hours like when I go to sleep, 6 hours if I just know I'm gonna look at them before I go to sleep. So at this part of the video, I have a Tatar, a Cogliano, and a Verbata that didn't sell. So what you have to do is go back and look at their prices and see what you should put their new selling price for. You don't want to keep your selling price the same, because other people will likely have lower prices by the time you try to resell it. Since I usually buy cards to try to get like a 10k profit out of them, I don't mind selling for less to get a 5k profit. But if it's like going to be a 1 to 2k profit or even a loss, don't panic sell. Just hold on to the card and come back later to see if the price has risen. In most cases, the reason that the price rises is because there aren't as many cards on the auction house anymore. Which means all you really need to do is find a time when there isn't as many cards on the auction house. There have been many times where that happened to me, and I was able to sell a card for like 20,000 more than what I expected to sell it for. So this next part I decided to do the quick sell method with Team of the Week cards. any special edition card can quick sell for 5K or more, and I happen to find Nick Dowd sitting over here all lonely for 4,950 coins. I decided to jump on that, buy him now, and yeah, I'm going to quick sell him for that 50 coin profit. Yeah, I'm rich now thanks to that card. There's also one less Nick Dowd in the world, and you can thank me for that. Quick sold his ass so fast. But if you wanted to, you could have looked up his price. I think he went for like 7K, as I just showed you guys. So you could have made like a 2K profit. I didn't care too much about that. This Campbell took me a little bit longer to sell for the 5K profit. Because right after I bought him, I noticed there's this Milestone Campbell that is better and goes for cheaper. It was at about this point where Team of the Year was looming. I released a video where Team of the Year sets will be out. So once I watched my own video on that, I decided to hop on this Carbon Collectibles market. Carbon Collectibles are interesting because they're on a seasonal cycle in a sense. Every time we near the end of a set, or there isn't a set out, or if there's a really bad set out, there are a lot of Carbon Collectibles. Which means you can hop on that and buy some of them for like 40 to 50K, and then when a new set's released, you can probably sell them like for 60K or more. So what a lot of people like to do is liquidate all of the cars that they're selling and just invest them in Carbon Collectibles, and then after like a week or two sell them all off. It probably won't work anymore this year, but next year keep that in mind if they return with the concept of like collectibles. So it's at this point where all of our cards have sold except for the one Carbon Collectible that I purchased. I look up to see if that Travis Konechny that I purchased in the first episode can go for anything more than a K, and it connect not. So if you have a lot of time on your hands and you just want to play the market for like a full hour, maybe longer than that, I don't know if you really want to deal with this for more than an hour. You can go back to the other method I showed you guys in episode 2 where you look at all the different gold rare cards that exist on the auction house. Make it so that the buy now minimum is about 20% of the coins that you have, and the maximum being maybe a little bit over the amount of coins that you have, just so that you can kind of get a feel for players that are more expensive than, I guess, what you can buy. Go to the 1 hour mark, and again, you look for good deals. There's this Spezza here, 89 overall milestone card for 10K, and I did not hop on it fast enough. I probably could have sold them for like 30K instantly. So that'll go back to people messing up their card prices because they're probably too lazy to check on what the actual price of the card is. That is thanks to the removal of LPS, last price sold. Here I thought Vernon was a good card to grab, but he wasn't that low compared to the rest of the cards out there. Coming up here, I find a 90 overall Andrew Ladd Movember going for a very cheap price. I just didn't think that he should be going for that price. I know he's one of the worst 90 overall cards out there, but I think it's worth checking out. And I found the Lightning Hero going for a low price as well, but not low enough. I look at other Andrew Ladds out there, sure enough, I can definitely make a profit off of this card. So if you're using a method like this, where cards just recently show up on the auction house because it's like 59 minutes, 59 seconds, you want to target cards that are furthest to the right unless they're on the second row, because those cards are the ones that showed up last, which means you're going to be one of the first people to see them. Whereas someone who refreshed the page a second earlier might not see that card. Here I'm using my previous money-making experiences to know that Carter Hart is going for a lot more than the price that was shown right there. So I'm going to pick him up for that easy profit. Though for some reason it took me a little bit longer to decide on him. I don't know why. I might have been drunk or something. But I ended up selling him a little bit later, so it seems like a pretty good deal to me. At least it does now. Maybe it didn't before, but it should have been a good deal to me before. If you're focusing on any card in particular, you're always selling that card because you have multiple copies of it, and you're trying to decide a good price for it, but someone else is also selling that card and their price is kind of on the cheap side. You can buy up his card and sell both of those cards for a much higher price. So you would average out your profits that way. Another thing you could do is keep undercutting that other person and then buy their card when it's significantly cheaper than what they put it up for, And then you do the same thing I just mentioned and sell both the cards for a much higher price. That's called the Walmart method because that's what Walmart does. They undercut a lot of like the local businesses in the area to force consumers to go to Walmart, and then it drives those businesses out of town. And that's essentially what you'd be doing by continuously undercutting the competition, even when, you can take a loss. I found a Junior Flashback Kolzig that I really like. You get 5 synergy points for using him as a backup. I feel like these cards are like way better than a lot of the player of the game cards, goalies that I'm selling. I think maybe if these cards weren't in sets anymore, the prices of them could go up. And I was thinking of buying the one for 7K, and then another one pops up for like 10K, and I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't such a good idea anymore. Like, I just knew that I was going to buy a Kolzig and try to resell him for a higher price, so he put one up right before and warned me about it, just so I wouldn't do it. So I continue using this 1 hour method, but since I have less coins now, I switch up the price range so that I'm looking between like 5K and like 30K. And I quickly learned that nothing happens between those price ranges. I could find some good steals between 20K and 50K, but 5K to whatever I just said, there was nothing there. I got bored pretty quickly, so that's why I decided to go back to the old method that started off the video, looking through Team of the Week cards to end this video with. And I kind of do the Walmart method that I was just talking about on these 2 Jerome McGinleys I find. But before I end the video, I want to talk about like one more little secret, I guess. And that is, if you're one of the first people to do something or to find something out, you can jump on that opportunity and make a fortune. That means you should always keep an eye out on what EA posts, any kind of sets that come up. They usually do sets at the same time, like every week, 7 p.m. Eastern time on like Wednesday or Thursday. Except this time they did it on a Friday. I don't know. But, for instance, if you know they're going to release one of those sets where you trade in rare players again, the prices of the really cheap rare players will go up, and you can just jump on that and instantly triple the amount of coins that you have. Trading in bronze and silver cards for the junior flashbacks also pretty much made people a fortune, or even looking out for competitive seasons. So here are the stats for this video. Kind of encompasses 2 weeks, week 2 and 3. So we ended up with 56,000 coins, but that's not really our end investment, because we have a carbon collectible, 2 Jerome McGinleys, and a Konechny that goes for nothing at this time. And I'd like to think that their value adds up to about 100,000. If you disagree with me, well then you can go just desync yourself. From now on, if you want to tell someone to F themselves, just say desync themselves, because that is far harsher than the other one that is profane. In fact, you can even go tell EA to desync themselves. Don't say F with 3 asterisks. That's rude. Make it more personal. You see what I'm saying? Either way, if I don't get 100K out of all those cards, I could probably, at the very least, get my money back, which was probably like 80K, and it's good enough. I'd still end up with at least 130,000, which is about 3 times the amount that I started with. We're 15% of the way to $1 million. It took me about 2 hours to make all those different transactions. That's, again, split between 2 weeks, 15 minutes a day. Some days I didn't even feel like getting on and doing anything, so it's not like it was 15 minutes every day. We only sold 16 cards in 2 weeks. That's about like a card a day, which isn't that much, but the average profit per card was over 7K, which is pretty impressive. And those are the kind of profits you guys should be shooting for. At least 5K on a card. At this point, anyway. I mean, if you only start off with 1,000, you don't try to flip a card for 10,000 unless you get a really damn good deal. That way, if the price of that card falls, you could still make a profit even if it's not that big of a profit. Cumulatively, or so far, we spent 4 hours and 40 minutes, sold 58 cards, and average profit per card is now 2,690. Still no Crosby sniped. I'm sorry. I'll do my best to get one next week. With that said, thanks for watching. If you guys have any kind of questions related to, well, anything, but I guess in this case in particular about flipping cards, playing the market, you let me know and I'll do my best to help you guys out. I'll see you guys next week for another episode of 1K to 1M, where your dreams come true.